Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Simplify Network Automation with NetGuru. I'm your host, and today we have a special guest, Denise Kwan. Denise, thank you so much for coming over on the stream. How are you? How have you been? It's been
I
a
am
while.
good. It's been a while, and if folks know that are watching, I used to be part of DevNet, so I'm super excited to join this stream. Ironically, I don't know why I was never on the stream when I was part of DevNet, but I guess it took me leaving before I got to come on.
Well, I mean, this you're always welcome, and you're always welcome on this. I guess I had to reach out to actually kind of pull you in. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Super happy to have you. Like you were saying, right? You were part of the team here at Cisco, but then in the meantime, you joined Google and you're covering Gemini and Gemini CLI over there. How
Yeah.
is that going?
It is fun. AI is the big thing right now. Everybody's
Yep.
talking about it. I know that on your own channel that you
Yep.
are talking about it, MCP servers. And so it's great to be part of it. With Google, there's uh, lots of different developer tools. So yeah, I specifically talk about Gemini CLI a lot, but it's covering all of Google's AI developer tools, such as anti-gravity. We have Jules, we have Gemini CLI, Gemini Codices, so lots of them. But right now, Gemini CLI is our focus, and that is what I'm going to be talking about today.
Perfect. Before we jump there, though, I know you're busy at Google, right? And you're working also on events, right? That's
Mhm.
something that it's coming up for you. You want to touch up a bit on that, like Google, the conference that's coming up in Vegas.
Yeah, back in Vegas in April, there is Google Cloud Next, and so funny thing is, as I'm sure a lot of you know, I've always was at Cisco Live in Vegas in Mandalay Bay, and Google Next is also in Mandalay Bay. So that is coming up in the next couple months. I will miss you guys with being in Amsterdam. It's been a while since I've been there, but every time I see all of the pictures pop up in my feed, I like to reminisce about the times that we had back there.
Yeah, exciting to actually go back to Amsterdam in like a couple of weeks for Cisco Live Europe. I'm looking forward to that for sure. And then, I mean, who knows? Google is. Do they even have conferences in Europe like Cisco has, or?
Not the big conference. So the big conferences are typically here in the US, but there are stuff over in Europe as well, but not involved in that, at least as of yet, just based off out of the US ones.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they'll expand. They'll end up in Amsterdam too. That'd
Maybe.
be funny. All right, so let's talk a bit about jumping into Gemini CLI, right? You've been doing a lot of fantastic work. I know John Capobianco also has been, uh, at the forefront of showcasing what Gemini CLI can do, especially from a network engineering angle. So tell us a bit about that. And I think you want to share screen. Who do we have here? Good morning from Vegas, Michael. Good morning, Chris Kaiser. Hi, Shannon. Thanks for joining, Shannon.
Hi, Shannon.
And then Jose from Guatemala. Hi, Jose. Thanks all for watching this.
Yeah, Gemini CLI, it launched in, I would say, I think end of June of last year, so it's not a super old,
Super new.
it's
Yeah.
super new. So it's been out for less than a year, and it is basically having your agent in your terminal. And I think that this is perfect for network engineers because, when I was teaching all of those Python 1001 lessons of, hey, let's go use your developer IDE, and I know a lot of people were like, what? What, like, all question about this. I love my terminal. I don't want to leave my terminal. Well, this is your opportunity. You can have your agent in your terminal. You don't have to leave anymore. And how this is different than some of the other tools is pretty much you don't have to leave your terminal. You don't have to open up another tool. You don't have to open up a desktop tool, a web tool, whatever. It's all right there. And so that makes it super nice, especially for this audience. So that's why feel like it is perfect for it. And I think a lot of people get like intimidated because they're like, oh, it's a terminal tool, it's just for developers, but it's not the case. It's for anybody and it's made for anybody. It's just a lot of the times that they think AI vibe code, but that's not necessarily the case. So I am going to jump right in and
Okay.
let me share my screen. Have a quick, let me go before it goes over here. Let me share my screen. And I'm going to do a quick, like, PowerPoint. I'm going to speed through it because I want to really get hands-on into this. And so, again, about me, I actually worked at DevNet for many, many years. I was a developer advocate. Probably saw me teaching Python in lots of the Cisco Live ones. Now I am a developer advocate specializing in Google's AI developer tools. And if you don't already follow me on LinkedIn, I am Denise Tiquan on LinkedIn. As I said, Gemini CLI is a terminal AI agent. And what's super nice about it is that it's open source. And so it allows other people to contribute. It allows others to even open issues when they have issues with it and really be able to see the code. So a lot of people get very uneasy about AI and these tools. And well, now you can see exactly what it's doing so that you can hopefully feel a little bit more comfortable with it. With Gemini CLI, we do have a free tier. So your own personal Gmail account, you can log in with it and you can have 60 requests per minute, 1,000 requests for the day. And you don't need to go put in a credit card. I know a lot of these tools, you have to go put in your credit card and then you have to remember to cancel. That's not the case for us. So definitely you can go and try it. We do have a 1 million token context window, meaning that the agent has that amount of context for it to know how, all of the stuff that we talked about so that it has the context to be able to help you and give you the results that you're hoping for. As I mentioned, it is open source. And I mentioned earlier too, built for everyone. Is not just for coding, it's for developers. Or it's for like other engineers performing research, image generation, and a lot more. And so I personally don't actually use it for coding that much, especially since a lot of the content that I make is not necessarily coding. So why a terminal AI agent versus a web or a desktop application? Um, and some of this stuff doesn't apply as much because AI has been moving so quickly that every week things change and we cannot necessarily keep up with everything that is happening. And so we do have the direct file system. I believe that a lot of other tools you can read data from your file system, but it cannot write. So it won't be able to like write the files to your system for you. And so what's nice is it can do that. It does have context awareness. So whenever you launch it from a project, you'll be able to it'll be able to read all the files there and understand what you're trying to do based off the files that you have. You do have tool access. So anything that you can do on your own terminal, you can do within Gemini CLI. So all of the SDKs that you install, all the CLIs, anything that you can do, all the tools that you've installed, you can have the access to that. It does have local MCP server and remote MCP server connections. And one thing that's super nice is that you can run Gemini CLI in headless mode and put it into your automation and your scripting. So let's say that within your script, you want to run something, some AI agent thing for it to do something. Well, you can do that with headless mode. And then, like I said, all in one. I heard so many people telling me, I love my terminal. I like do everything in my terminal. This is your opportunity to never leave your terminal. It's an all-in-one tool. You can do it all within your terminal. These are just some things that I thought of specifically for this audience of what you can do with Gemini CLI just to get you into that thought of having network management, network automation, visualization, and troubleshooting. I'll go and show a little demo on some of these things. But one thing that really for me is that when I was doing a lot of contact center stuff and parsing through those logs, like, man, you have to go look line by line and it just becomes a pain. So it's nice that some tool can summarize everything for you and you don't necessarily have to dig through every single line. So I think that's nice. I've heard many times on this live stream talking
Yeah.
about MCP. I am going to kind of glance through it. I think you guys all have that idea of what MCP servers are, that it can go and connect your agent to outside external information. These are the supported types of transports. So for local one, standard IO; for remote, streamable HTTP transport. Um, most of the time when you have to go and set up your MCP server, you have to open up that settings.json. You got to go fill
Hmm.
out that JSON. Well, what's nice is that in one CLI or in one command, you can add it all. You don't have to open up that JSON file. You can just go and pass in all the information and you're good. So we tried to make the process a lot easier to connect to your MCP servers. And with Gemini CLI, we have something called an extension. We kind of call it MCP++. It basically, you can group together one or more MCP servers, give it context files. So you know how like when you have to go, you want to train your agent to like what you want, giving it a persona, telling it, I want it to follow these rules. You can put all that context in with it and bundle it all up, which will give the agent a better chance of doing what you want it to do in a more simpler, less token way. So a lot of the, if people don't understand, all of this stuff is based off of tokens, and the more tokens you use, the more it costs. If you're on a subscription, the more tokens you use, the faster your quota for the day is stopped. So we want it to be able to do things just one and done, do it exactly the way you want it to. And so by bundling all of this stuff up, we're able to give the results a much better chance of what you want. And again, it is a one line install, making it easy. No more setup, no more none of that, just taking the friction away. We got lots of extensions. Check out our extensions gallery at gemini.cli.com/extensions. There's Google built ones, there are partner built ones, and then there's also community built ones. One thing I'm going to highlight is everybody knows John Capobianco. He created a few extensions: the PyATS one, a Packet Buddy one, a subnet calculator, and 2 MCP servers that might be relevant for you all. Check out his stuff. And he has on his YouTube channel videos showing how to use these extensions. I'm going to highlight a couple features that we will be seeing in the demo. The first one that is really cool, that is used all the time, especially by me, is interactive shell. And I think that this is going to be very helpful for you all, is being able to run shell commands within Gemini CLI. And the output of it becomes the context for the agent. And so you can start using the agent to do a lot of the debugging, ask it why it's having issues. And it just makes it easy because you no longer have to copy paste your errors back to the agent, asking it, and it knows exactly what's happening. I mentioned earlier headless mode, being able to programmatically run Gemini CLI from scripts and the automation. And so that's really good for like CI/CD pipelines or just any sort of scripts that you have. And then custom commands, a lot of the times you might be pasting a whole essay into your prompt. You can save your prompt into a custom command and make it very easy to use. It's almost like creating a shortcut. And what's nice about that is just the TOML file, and so that you can share it with other people. It is a terminal window, so then you can spawn off as many instances of Gemini CLI as you want and run them in parallel. I know some people like to go in and run multiple instances to get all their stuff done, running in the background while they do their own work. You can easily install Gemini CLI with an npm install, and then you just choose your authentication. So as of this morning, we had partnered with deeplearning.ai, and we created a Gemini CLI short course. It is completely free, and it goes through a lot of these things in depth of how to use it, what we feel are the best practices, what we feel are the good shortcuts. And we also go through several use cases that is not coding related on what you can do with Gemini CLI. Definitely check out this course. It came out just today in the morning. And so it is a good way. If you've never used a terminal tool, AI tool, this is a great way to learn. It's free. You can walk through it with us. All of the code and all of the files that were used is also provided. So let me get out of this. Let's jump into the demo.
So there was a quick question here,
Okay.
Denise, before we jump in. So Chris is asking, isn't remote MCP over gRPC 2.1?
Is the remote over 2.1?
MCP over gRPC 2.1? Because I think you were mentioning streamable HTTP.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. It just depends. We were mentioning streamable HTTP. This is the transport tool, and then it really depends on how that remote MCP server is built. So um, I don't know the exact protocol that is used, and I believe that it is the latest.
It might be gRPC 2.1,
Hmm.
Chris. You're right.
Yeah. I think it should be, but I mean, and if you wanted to, I can definitely check it out. The code is open source. If you go to the GitHub for Gemini CLI, the code is open source. You can see exactly what it is, and so could definitely check out to see if it is. But I believe it is. All right. Any more questions?
Um, no, just a comment. Jock was looking actually for a CLI or a terminal. So Jock, here you go. You got Gemini CLI. Give it a try because he was looking of moving away from
Yeah.
PyTerm or something. So
Here
this
you
is an
go,
option.
Jock. You need to check out Gemini CLI. And if you need help, definitely to anybody, if you need help, don't hesitate to message me and I'll be glad to help you.
Nice. All right.
Alrighty.
So
So,
you have it installed here on your machine, right? That
so
npm install.
mhm. So I do have it installed on my machine because, demo gods aren't always on our favor. So I
Mhm.
had to be ready. But if you didn't have it, it would just be npm install -g Google Gemini CLI. And as you saw over here, um, it was listed straight over here of how you can install it. You can also use npx if you wanted to, but somebody like me uses it all the time, so therefore I do not want to use npx.
Can
And
you
so
zoom in a
when
bit, please, Denise?
sorry, what?
Can you zoom in a bit, please?
Oh, yes.
Couple of times. There you go. Yes.
Is that good?
Yep. It's better.
um and so just to launch it, you just type in Gemini, and it is a terminal based one, so you'll see it here. It's telling you where you launched it from, and then what model you are using. So I'm using the Gemini 3 model. And typically when you are doing it for the first time, as I said, I've already done it all myself, but you have three options of how you want to log in. So if you are using your personal account, your free tier, you would select login with Google. It will launch the OAuth and be able to do the login, but I am using a Gemini API key. Um, and I know a lot of people, they're always hesitant to be able to use these tools and saying, oh, it's going to train on my data. I'm going to be transparent. If you are using a free tier, yes, it does train on your data. So just remember that. But if you are using any sort of paid tier, whether you pay for your own subscription, is through an enterprise account, any of that, it is not training on your data. So I know that that's usually what people worry the most. So now I'm on my terminal, and this is not just for coding, like I said. You can use it and say, so let me preface this. I am VPN into the sandbox. And so I am just using the SD-WAN sandbox. And so I am going to be using this sandbox as the tool of the sandbox of choice. Obviously, you can do it to any sandbox you want. So I'm just going to go and say, tell me about Cisco SD-WAN. What can I do with it? Let's just say I'm a new learner. Where can I find the developer documentation for it? Do you think it's going to point to DevNet?
Hopefully. Let's
Let's
see.
see. Let's see what it does. Um, and I will also preface that this is ultimately an AI agent. And so models always vary whether or not
Mhm.
how fast it's going to perform, how slow, whether you get an error. So we always just have to hope and see what it's going to do. I have no clue. As you can see, it's doing two Google searches in parallel because I asked it kind of a two-part question, and does it all in parallel. It's essentially doing Google search. One thing that I always say is that before with agents, it'll be purely based off of the training data. And because one of our tools is being able to do a Google search, if it doesn't know the answer off of the training data, it will do a search. It takes the results and then just kind of gives you a summary. So this is almost like the chat piece. If you go to like ChatGPT or like Gemini.google.com, this is kind of like the chat piece of it. So you can definitely do any of that stuff here as well. So the part that you really care about is being able to connect to your servers, right? Your network. So one thing I talked about is interactive mode. If I push exclamation point on my keyboard, you will see that this is shell mode enabled. So now I'm in shell mode and I can type in anything like I am doing if I were to open a new terminal window and just type. So let's SSH into, I think this was the SD-WAN manager.
Yep.
And so I am going to, and again, let me say that I am not a network engineer. I know only so much, and so don't shoot me. Oops, I canceled my request. Um, don't get mad if I'm doing something silly that a network engineer would never do. But my point is the fact that I am showing you that you can do these on here. So with interactive mode, you can actually, so you know how you see it's asking for my password, and then it says to focus. I can go in and do Control F to focus, and oops, what did I just do? Um, Let me do that again for like the third time because I'm not paying attention. I'm pushing Control F to be able to focus into this. What is going on?
And it did find
Uh,
DevNet as the main developer hub, like over there. So
it
it
did.
did.
It
It did.
did.
Good job, Gemini.
Oh, Oh, look, I see. So we did an update, and this is what it is. We did an update last night, and it looks like it's no longer Control F. It was just Tab. That's why I was getting confused. Um, and
Yeah, because
so
I
I
saw nine
am.
hours ago that repo got an update. It looked like a
So
main.
our launches are always Tuesday evenings, and so it got updated this morning, and so therefore I just got the latest version of it because I have it auto install my updates, and it looks like they changed it from Control F to Tab. It had told me in the bottom, but like I said, I'm not paying attention and did not see that. So sorry. Push Tab to go into this focus. So as you see now, I am typing inside of here. Let's do a show version. And so it just does it as if you were typing this on a terminal window. So I'm going to do show run config, and it is going to be as if I am typing. So let's say I'm going to read through all of this config, and you're like, okay, interesting. And so I am going to exit out of this this interactive shell. I'm back here. I'm going to exit out of shell mode, and I am going to ask it, what are the IP addresses of the DNS? So it is going to go in. And so, like I said earlier, this is the context. So now it knows everything. Can you summarize the config? And you no longer have to go in and look through everything for yourself. You can ask it. So this is just basic information. Typically, let's say that there is some sort of error and you want to debug it. Now you can say, ask it like you had seen something. You're like, oh, why is this down? You can ask it, why is it down? Is going to go in and do some of the debugging for you, and that context just becomes kind of key to the agent being able to help you. Of course, not, I mean, this little thing isn't really going to do as much as something very difficult, because I'm sure people are like, well, I could have just read that myself. But the whole point is the fact that it just becomes context for you.
Hmm.
So that shows you how you can do something manually and then use that as context. But what if I did not know how to do something? Like I don't know the right commands that I need. So let me get me the details of all of the interfaces. And I just don't know how to do it. Like I've never needed to go into the config or the console and do that. So it is reading. So when I had said it has context awareness, it is currently reading all of the things in the file. And it knows that, okay, in order to do it, I'm going to have to go and send these commands. And so I'm using expect. It will, not I, but the agent is using expect. Notice how it goes and asks me what it actually wants to do. So it wants to go and send this expect script and is asking me for permission. And I am going to allow it for the session, but it gives the user that control. I can always say allow once, or if I say, I don't want you to do this, I can exit out that way. So I'm going to allow it for the session. It was kind of super fast. And so um, it was super fast. So you can't really see, but it basically ran that expect script. It's getting all of the information here, and it is gathering all of it for uh, to get that summary and making sure that everything is good. So here it is. It's verifying that everything got done. And so it can do all of that stuff in the background.
Interesting, because that's expect, that's a blast from the past.
Yep, it is.
So
And it does go through different tools once in a while. Like it will try to figure out how to do it. So it does the best that's available. And so yeah, expect is a blast from the past, but you know what? It works. And it actually
yeah,
works pretty reliably. So and you can always have it and say save the expect script so that you can, you run it later as well. And so here it got all the details. And so it was able to get that information for me. I didn't have to know what you needed to type in. I have no clue, to be honest. And so let's now go in and do something more of like making a config change. I
that
am
was gonna be my next question. Okay, so it's nice, it does the show commands, but can it actually do changes for you, configuration changes?
Okay, so is there something in particular? I was going to have it make this interface and set it to a particular IP address. I don't know what the heck I'm doing to it, but
That's, yeah, that's fine.
okay.
That's a good option.
Okay, I'm going to do set the IP address of EDA1. Oops, I am having trouble typing today. To be, I don't know. And I'm making this up. So with a description of set by Gemini CLI. So is it going to be smart enough to be able to know these things? And so a lot of the times the way that I use this, even for like vibe coding and stuff like that, I think you really have to think about the what would the learning data have versus, and is it this something that's repetitive that there's going to be a lot of data that is out there, so for you to get a reliable result, if you are going to be doing something super complex, I would definitely not go in and say, hey, do this for me. I may say what are the steps to be able to get to do it so that you kind of get a starting point, but I probably wouldn't reliably just say go and do it all for me and just trust that it's going to work. Um, oh, it says that it doesn't work, cannot have the IP address in the same subnet. Oh, I
Overlapping
probably,
summits.
okay, so yes. So it caught my error that it wasn't going to be able to do this. And then so I said, just go do, I don't know. It says it found a different one that's going to work. But see, that was nice because it caught that mistake. And so it did it. Show me actually, I did it earlier. So let me get the details again, just to see that it is actually did what I wanted it to do. So there you go. It did, and it changed the IP address, or it added the IP address for that interface. It did catch my issue of me putting it in the same subnet, so that was nice because if I did it manually and I am clueless, which I guess maybe why would you actually make config if you're clueless? Um, that's why I'm using a sandbox so that I don't like destroy anything. And so then it helps you catch mistakes and just kind of keeps you on track. So that's one thing that is nice. I will say that these things that I'm doing is basic. Yeah, I probably want to do it on a more complex one, but you can definitely say, can you create me an expect script to be able to do it? Then you can go through
Mhm.
and like verify it yourself before you go in and actually apply the changes. And then that way you have more confidence that what it is doing is exactly what you want to do. But how many, I mean, maybe you, Adrian, since you know you have all your certifications and you have it all memorized and been doing this forever, maybe you are able to memorize all of these config
Mm.
information. But I would assume that there's a lot of people that they know the gist of it and still have to go and look everything up. So it's kind of nice to be able to for somebody to just be like, here's all of it, and you can kind of verify yourself whether or not that's accurate. Um, so
Um,
yeah.
yes, this is good. The next, that's good that it caught that because that was going to be a problem with the IP in the same subnet. But then, can you ask is can it check for duplicate IP addresses? So,
You check for duplicate IP addresses. Let's see what it comes up with. It's like the test. So it looks like asked for, it typed in show ARP. It
mhm.
analyzed it. There's potential duplicate issues. It is now, this is appearing in both ARP tables according to this. You're the expert. You can tell me whether
Yeah,
or not it
this
was
is
accurate.
interesting.
You can tell me if this was accurate. Did it give it a good, did it actually find what it was supposed to find?
It did. It's interesting because you enabled that ETH1 interface anyway, because it was shut down. It was not, didn't have an
Mhm.
IP on it. So once you enabled that, you actually brought it up online, and then it actually picked up because in the backend, the VMware configuration is basically those two interfaces are in the same VLAN, the same port group. So it's interesting that it picked this up because that was it's good. So it's
Cool.
interesting.
I'm glad that it did the right thing. And yeah, I mean, there's once in a while it will hallucinate, but it's gotten, I think a lot of the AI models have gotten a lot better of less hallucination. Um, and I always know if you try to use a new model when it comes out, there's going to be a lot more hallucination because of just the usage of how much traffic's going into it. So you always, no matter what model it is, this is always the case for every single one. But glad that it actually caught something that it was supposed to catch. So shifting gears here, we're telling, rather than telling it to make configuration changes or doing something on that, we had always talked about, and I went back to the days of the learning labs of being able to go in and create these network automation, create these scripts, these Python scripts, doing things on Postman and using the REST API, right? So let's do a little bit of vibe coding with this. And so I am going to say using the SD when REST APIs, make me a Python script to get, let's see, the monitoring device details. Uh, let's see, what else did I see on here? Okay, device counters and interface statistics. Can you also get the device counters and interface statistics? So let's see what it comes up with the Python script. Let's see if it matches at least similar enough with the Learning Lab. So it's searching the web for these REST APIs and trying to figure out what it needs to use because I was very, this is all natural language. I didn't tell it exactly which endpoints to use. I didn't say, I just said with the SD-run REST API. So it's going to do the search for research to see what it needs to do. And
There-
then,
There's a
mhm.
couple of questions while this is running,
Yeah.
Denise. So Chris is asking, does it hallucinate output of the CLI? Like, could it hallucinate errors in the log that are not there?
Um, I mean, again, we have no, I mean, the model's the model, and it really varies on day to day, minute to minute on whether it can hallucinate. It can hallucinate anywhere at any point, but the more context that you provide, or the more, and this is why I had said earlier with like MCP servers versus extensions, the more information that you give it, the more it's going to know, and the less chance it's going to hallucinate. So it can hallucinate in the output. It can hallucinate while it's trying to build these things. So it's always good to verify what it is doing. And you always have in Gemini CLI, you can do what essentially we call it sandbox, but is basically snapshotting a certain moment so that it can go back to it if you are doing a lot of like code stuff and everything, so that you can protect yourselves from any hallucination or it going haywire. But again, no matter what tool you use, no matter what model you use, whether it is a Google one or a non-Google one, the chance of hallucination is possible. And it based on my own usage, it really varies on like the time of the day, whether or not it's a high usage time or a model just came out or anything like that. Hopefully that answers the question. Um, I am going to allow this so you can see all of it. So before I'm going to let it run, maybe it's easier to see here on my um, VS Code. So it created this script for me. It told you to import request, something that I'd always tell everybody in the Python class. Created the config, and it had the password to it only because I threw it into the environment of the password. Plus, it knew which one I had just because I've used it for a while. And then so it did the base URL here with the data service, and it's doing all of the authentication. So here's the authentication,
Mm.
which was in this step over here, talking about using the J securities check, all of this information about it. So it did that piece of it, and it is using the REST API, being able to do that, get the data and get the interfaces. I believe that these are the proper REST APIs to use. And then it runs it. So I am going to let it run this script. And as you can see, it paused over there. So I had the opportunity, if it was wrong, to say like, nope, this is what's wrong. And I can tell it to go back and forth with the agent if I needed to. So it's getting, looks like it got all the information. Oh, looks like they had an issue. Oh, adding debug mode. So it looks like it had an issue with the script. I'm not sure exactly what. And it is working through the problem. So that is what's nice about this, is like the agent knows what the end result is sort of supposed to do. So when it runs into some sort of issue, it is going to go in and work through the issues. Most of the time, it's pretty good about it. And I am not, it says it's putting some debug print in there. Maybe there's some issue on the REST API side.
So it's a different endpoint actually. So
Oh,
it's
is it?
interesting to see it try different things.
Is it a different endpoint? It worked when I was practicing all of this stuff. Oh, looks like it might have figured it out.
So while he's doing that, couple of questions. Marcin from Poland, is this good for learning or rather for experienced people? It's good for everyone, Marcin, right? Even if you're brand new, you're doing an npm install, you start it and just play with it.
Um,
Learning and developers.
Yeah, it's good for anybody. I think it's great for learning, especially if you are using a free tier, like your own personal account, and you're using the DevNet sandbox. Obviously, it doesn't matter that typically I wouldn't be exposing all of my information, my passwords, everything, but we're using a DevNet sandbox. Anybody can reserve them for free. And so from a learning perspective, I think it's great. Even for me, when I started working at Google, I was using a lot of these AI tools to create my own tutorials, right? Like rather than going through, and I hate to say this because I've worked on a lot of these learning labs as well, but like just to get things catered directly to you, right? Like, so tell me step by step how to get these things. I could have asked it, how do you authenticate with SD-WAN? And it'll tell me all of this information. And so some people work better where it's like I call it your own personal tutor. And so you can, it is great for learning. It is great for you to say, how do you configure the banner? And it can tell you all of the config places. And of course, don't do this on a production when you are learning, as I hope everybody would understand, but like it is great for that. But also, if you are a professional worker who needs to do it on a day-to-day basis, let's say that there's a lot of things that you can do easily, but if we always talked about network automation, right? Like, yeah, you could do it, but it also takes some time to write the script. And this can be done in the background. Like, I can technically put it on YOLO mode and I can run all of this stuff in the background. And during that same time, you can be doing things that you actually want to do or need to do. We all have a list of stuff that we got to get done. And so there's a lot of tasks that can kind of be pushed off for an agent to do, things that are more of the basic stuff, not something that's super, super hard to debug. Although I have had situations where I get frustrated off something and the agent actually figures it out for me in a lot quicker manner than myself. But I see it more as, yes, it's a great learning tool. I use it myself. I learned all about GDP, Google Cloud, for Google Cloud. I learned all about it through a tool like Gemini CLI. Gemini CLI wasn't available right when I started, but then I started using it and I was able to learn a lot faster through this way. But also you can use it as somebody who's been in the industry for quite some time. So it looks like it did figure it out, and it was able to get all of the statistics and gave me or did not give me a summary of it, but here is all the statistics. Actually, I think this is a summary of
Mhm.
everything that it is. So like I say, it does make some mistakes. It's not going to be perfect every time, but it did figure it out eventually.
Can you ask it to do authentication with JWT?
Can you
You change
modify the
the code.
script to you do authentication with JWT,
JWT, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, let's see what it does. Um, Oh, looks like the model had an issue. Um,
Because this
so
is
yeah,
actually something that I was trying again.
yeah,
That
I
I
had
was
to try it.
working on just the other day. Exactly this use case with SD-WAN authentication, moving towards JWT as their main. The J session ID, it's still kind of supported, but it's just for backward compatibility. They're moving
Mm,
to uh, Java Web Token.
okay, let's see what it does.
Let's see. I'm curious.
We don't know. And that again is the whole thing with these, especially like, back then when we were doing demos, right? It's like we knew exactly what was going to happen. Now we don't really know what's going to happen because every single time you run it, it might be different. So it says that the JWT authentication flow is this. It's making the changes. We can look at it after here. Okay, so it looks like it tried to make the changes, it had an issue, and it's going to fix the script. So,
No, that's good that it caught that, because the sandbox, and that brings me to another topic. It's running 20.12, which is a fairly old version of SD-WAN. We're updating those, by the way, folks, to 20.18. Those sandboxes will be done soonish, but I'm glad it did
did
catch
it?
the fact that, hey, it's now working on 20.12. So
Oh, look, see, it specifically said.
JWT login. Yes, that's the
Yeah,
endpoint. Good job.
okay. So yeah, so this is like all that was the gist for some of the Python script stuff. And then I am going to switch gears, and we had talked about MCP servers
Mhm.
and having being able to connect it all. Um, and so I am going to exit this. And typically, let me clear so that I'm up at the top. Typically, what I of course have already installed these, but um the one that I am going to show is actually John's PyATS extension. And so what you would need to do is basically going to go and export. And when people have these, there's going to be instructions on how to do it, but you do export and then you just copy the line here and be able to install it. I already have mine installed. I just had it disabled so that when I was doing all the previous ones, it was not using my MCP servers. But typically you would just do that and push enter and then it'll get installed. So let me just go, but let me go in and enable the extensions because I do have it, and I actually have a couple other ones that I wanted to show, so I'm gonna enable them. Again, what's nice is that you can enable disable, so if you don't want to actually connect to it, then you can do that. So I'm going to go back onto Gemini, and you will notice that it is connecting to them. Hopefully we don't run into issues because with the VPN, sometimes it hits issues. Looks like it is. Oh, there you go. Just to note that because I am on the DevNet sandbox, you do not necessarily have all the access to the external. And so when I originally installed it, I did hit an issue with that. So I had to get off of VPN and then get back on. So if you try to do this when you're on VPN, you might hit an issue. So I have them all installed, and you can see all of the tools and everything by doing MCP list. I do have a Google Workspace extension, Nano Banana, which is image. I had talked about it, generating diagram, and PyATS. And so I am going to go through really quick because I think we have like less than 15 minutes left. So can you use the PyATS MCP to compare the routing tables of DCC Edge? And I totally jacked this off of John's YouTube channel where he talked about this. I'm going to be real about that. I'm just going to do that for now. Make me a summary report and save it as a Google Doc. So one thing that I used to get really annoyed at is like it gives you these reports, right? And then you got to copy it or you can make it a markdown and you're just like, that's not the format that I wanted. And so what's nice is because I do have I'm allowing this. So you see that it runs the PyATS show command for them. But because I have the Google Workspace extension, I already authenticated it to have access to my Google Docs. So I can go in and automatically go and put all the results into a doc by itself. And I don't need to do all this copy paste. And it can also read from a doc. So let's say that you have a lot of information about some sort of network thing on there and you can read it from a doc. Spec-driven development, that is a big thing that we have as well. Having all of your design spec on a doc and being able to be like implement this. So that's one of the nice things. So now like it's currently using PyATS. Looks like it's having some sort of issue with this one in particular. But as you see, it was a super easy install and being able to do this without much of a configuration. Oh, I will add that his PyATS extension points to the CML sandbox. I'm using the
Ah,
SD-WAN. I was not kind of lazy. This is I've noticed that I've used this way more than I used to, but I basically said the test bed YAML is an example of it, and I asked it to make it, and I gave it the link of the details. So I just basically copied this credentials link and I gave it to Gemini CLI and say, can you make it for me? And that's how it made it. I will show you that it created the test bed YAML for me. Um, so, oh, looks like it is done. Let me go in and go over here, and it looks like it created this report for me. So what's super nice is it's able to fetch using doing the stuff with the PyATS MCP server, getting that information, created my report, and then it was able to go and use another MCP server, the Google Workspace one, to be able to go and do that. Um, Speeding through, I saw on the another one of these, maybe I have it, with the whole netconf and Ansible. So let's see and ask it to make me an Ansible playbook to configure I still spelled it wrong, banner. And so it basically does pretty much the same, being able to go and log to get the information and create me a playbook. So these are good ways of just starting what you need and just getting the basics there. Sometimes, especially if you're new, you don't know what you're quite doing, and rather, I kind of, it looks like it goes and says to configure it and to do this script, and based off of what I see over here, oh, this is an NTP server one, but I had seen one previously, and pretty much you can definitely see if it matches exactly what we have on the learning labs, but it was able to create it to configure the banner, and then
Mhm.
it created it looks like this is supposed to be an INI file, right? It's probably
No,
gonna
yeah, that's
figure,
fine.
oh, can the YAML work too?
Yeah.
Um, and so it created the file for me. Since we only have 9 minutes, I'm gonna skip the netconf one, but one thing I know that, network topologies are made a lot. So topology of my SD-WAN environment using Nano Banana. I don't know if how many people have played with Nano Banana. It is on the Gemini app as well, being able to generate funny, cool images however you like. Most people do it with funny things, but creating it has a generate diagram to be able to do this topology. Let's see what it comes up with this time. It made me a pretty cool one last time. um, I don't know if this is accurate. I think it's missing some stuff. But if you had your test, I could have always done like added giving it my test bed that YAML, being able to go and say create this for me, and create you a
Alright.
diagram.
It's not bad
So
for a first try.
yeah, a lot of the things is, I think the big thing is, don't expect these agents to necessarily get things done the first time around. I think a lot of the times you do need to be able to go, back and forth
Either
with
way,
it
yeah.
and iterate through with it. And of course, you need to give it good context. Like I just kind of said, create me one with my environment, and then um, give it to me. It does look like the model's having a little bit of funkiness today because it is giving me some API errors. So usually when it is a lot like there's more load on it, it doesn't perform as well as if it had way more load. I mean, same thing with your computer, right? If your your laptop's spinning a lot of the times, it just is a lot slower. So
Nice. There was
yeah.
a question here also earlier, Dennis from Ravindran on X. So, can we create an alerting notification of alerts messages to the agent in real time?
So is it I'm not 100% sure, maybe you can interpret, but is it like can they create a alert based off of something on their server, or is just
Yes,
like
in real time.
yeah, you can definitely do that as long as you have, I mean, polling is never a great thing, but like you can always poll it and just run it all the time. But also we do have I mean, now something got added like with hooks. I didn't really showcase that here, but also being able to run it in within your automated script or within your CI/CD pipeline, you can always use it in headless mode and be able to use this as well in real time. But and then if you have some sort of pub sub thing, right, where it can listen to some actual event and be able to interact with it, that would probably be the most ideal. But yes, it can definitely do that.
All right, and then Marston is asking, is there a shelf full of manga behind you, Denise?
It is the shelf. I'm going to stop sharing. The shelf is actually a whole bunch of Pop Funkos. Um, it is lots and lots of Pop Funkos behind me. Lots of Star Wars one. But yes, this is a collection of Pop Funkos. Star Wars Pop Funkos for a majority of them down here. I am a Giants fan, so this is a giveaway at one of the Giants one. I am a big Garfield fan, so that is what's behind me.
Really cool stuff. Okay, let's see what else. What questions I missed? Give me just 1 second to scroll
Mhm.
through. Diagram creation would have been amazing. Chris, tested thoroughly. Yes. Huge potential. I agree, especially for documentation purposes, right? Keeping your network diagrams updated dynamically, right? Something
Mhm.
happens, especially for like large network diagrams.
And then
Um,
also, I had talked about custom prompts, right? So if you get the perfect prompt to create your network diagram or whatever the case is, right? You can save that prompt and save that so that next time you just have to, very simple, almost like a shortcut. So keeping it updated maybe every in your CI/CD pipeline or every time you make a change, you can always run that script afterwards and keep it updated.
Another comment here was, why not let it do complex steps? You ask it to create an outcome, a test case for outcome, and then run the test case on the outcome to prove it's okay. I mean,
You
how
can.
complicated you want it? You can, right? Yeah.
You can, but just for the sake of this demo, because I have a limited amount of time, I chose very simple things. Um, you can do complex things. You probably will have to, I mean, to be honest, I think with any sort of model, you will have to go back and forth with the agent to be able to get exactly what you want when it is a lot more complex because it won't know exactly what you want. The more context that you provide it, of saying the background, when am I expecting, all of that, you are going to get a better outcome based off of that. But yes, you can do more complex things. I was just showing simple things just to be, or else I would have only been able to go down one use case throughout all of this.
And it did turn out to be like a definite get together here. There was Kaval. I saw comments. Kaval, thanks.
Yeah.
Matt DiNapoli was there.
Oh, Matt. Hi, Cobble. Hi, Matt.
Verlaine, thanks for joining, watching this. Hello.
Always supporting us in DevNet,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Mhm.
Trooper. Shannon comments, going live with code on. Good stuff from everyone. Let me see. It will be difficult to get the IPs of the device and type Gemini to SSH every time when we need to connect to a device. Can we run this inside secure CRT is a question. I mean, we manage thousands of network devices. Yes. So if I want to interact with the CLI from outside, from Gemini, if I want to interact with Gemini CLI from outside, Denise, right, like from a programmatic perspective, is there a way?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you are able to like enter in, right? Like SSH in. So also note that this can be installed on any terminal. So if you have a terminal within your network, then you can install that as well, right? So as long as it is able to go in and access the model, so it can. And one thing that I didn't really mention is like, there's GitHub actions that we have put in for GitHub repos. Well, all it's doing is essentially installing Gemini CLI into that with GitHub Actions. You know how you can can have like that whole side environment. It's basically just installing it on a terminal. So anywhere you have your terminal, I was doing it on my own laptop, but let's say that you have some sort of dev box, right? Like you have some environment in within your network, you can install it on there. It's not just, oh, it has to be on your laptop. So yeah, you definitely can, as long as you have a secure way to access in. It can definitely do it. If you're able to do anything on your terminal, you can do it with Gemini CLI.
Perfect. Yeah, 'cause so then you can install it like iTerm or
Mhm,
secure CRT, like Nero was saying here. That's really
mhm,
cool.
mhm.
And then one last question here before we wrap up. Can it read DNA Center, Catalyst Center logs and suggest solutions in the terminal? Yes, it can, Marcin. Yes, it can. It can
Uh,
read logs and suggest solutions. Yes.
yeah, so that's one of the great things about being able to it parsing through logs, right? Like hundreds of lines of logs, being able to do it, then it can go in and look through it all and suggest solutions. I think that that's one of the bigger things of for me when building apps, like especially web apps, like you try to launch it and it's like 404. You're like, what the heck? What went wrong? And if you run it from Gemini CLI, you can just be like, why is it wrong? And it'll go in and fix all the problems for you. And most of the time, it's like the most obscure thing that you probably wouldn't have thought of right away. And it probably would have taken you, what, like an hour, 2 hours, and it just does it really quickly. So it's a lot of the stuff that you probably know, but it's just a lot faster, right? You don't have to think about it anymore. Things that are just simple so that you can focus on the things that you need to do. It is not a replacement for everything that everybody does. It really is not. It's just things that are on the I personally like to use it on the more simple side so that you know for sure that that is what it's supposed to do, because a lot of people do have that fear, including myself, of, oh, it's going to mess it up, it's not doing what it needs to do. Well, when there's a lot of training data on the not as complex stuff, things that everybody's doing, the general everyday stuff, then you're going to be good because it has all of that data. And by the way, that presentation that I made on the slides, most of it was done with Gemini CLI. I asked Gemini what I should put on the slides. I use Nano Banana to create the images, and so those slides take slides take
Yeah.
forever to generate.
Yeah.
Network diagrams take forever to generate. So let's go and give these tasks that take forever but are not too complex to somebody else to do.
No, I mean, this is fantastic, right? Because yes, you could use Gemini in the browser, right? And switch between browser and CLI and but this makes it so much easier because it's right there. You live in
Hmm.
the CLI anyway, in the terminal anyway, day in and day
Yeah.
out. So this is just bringing Gemini into your terminal so that
Hmm.
you interact. It has access to your, like you said, to your local file system, all the log files, everything. It automatically detects context based on where in the folder structure. If you have Terraform files, for example, or
Yep.
Ansible playbooks, it automatically figures out that, oh, it's an Ansible playbook.
Yep.
So it knows how to interpret that. So it's really taking AI and bringing it into the terminal for you to have it at the tip of your fingers. So
Hmm.
whatever you need to ask it is there, it's watching, it can provide feedback, it can look through logs, it can create Ansible playbooks for you, it can optimize them if you already have
Hmm.
them, it can create network diagrams for
Yep.
you, right?
Yes.
So
So a
really
lot of your
fantastic.
everyday stuff, and as you saw, I was able to do everything within that terminal. Of course, I was flipping to the web just to show you that, hey, these are the learning labs, or this was my sandbox. But ultimately, like I said, I highly doubt that everybody memorizes all the config, right? You would have to go and reference some of these documents, but now it's like, well, just tell me what's the config, because most of the time we Google search it anyways, right? You Google search the syntax, you Google search all of it. Well, it did the Google search for you and it told you. So it's essentially parsing through everything you would have read and put it on there. And now more and more companies are creating like a knowledge base or a documentation MCP server. So then if they do start doing that, you can use that documentation MCP server as if you were pulling up the documentation in the first place.
And then one last question and we wrap up. So Chris was asking earlier how to handle let me see, not this. How to handle the CISO so they won't panic when I mention Google, AI, and CLI access to devices. So you mentioned briefly, right? If you have the free version of this, yes, they will use your data
Mhm.
to train the model. If
Yeah,
you have any type of paid
paid
version of
version.
it, they will not use
Hmm.
your data to train the model.
Yep.
So please, that
And it is in the
agreement
terms
from
and
Google.
terms of service. You can read it yourself. If you don't want to, I know it's hard to believe sometimes, but if you read it, you can read it yourself. It is in the terms of service that we do not use it from a paid version of to train the model. And so,
The US Cloud Act. Okay, we're not gonna get into that. All right. So we're a bit over time here. Thank you so much, Denise, for coming over. We'd love to have you back whenever you have more information. In the meantime, I'll let you prepare for the event in Vegas. I know it's coming up for you in April, like
yep.
you said. So time is flying. Thanks again, everyone,
Yeah.
for watching this. We'll see you next week. We'll bring Eric Chu. We'll talk about AI again. Um, and we'll see you all soon in Amsterdam at Cisco Live. I'm excited to be there in a bit more than a couple of weeks. But Denise, thanks again. Any final words from you?
Yeah, I mean, thank you all for joining. And if there are specific use cases you want me to go through, I'm happy to come back on here, drop it in that comment. And I'm sure Adrian will message me and be
Yep.
like, hey,
Yep.
there's people want to know. I'm happy to go. If you connect with me, if you have any issues, I am happy to help as well. But super excited to see you all at Amsterdam. I will be following on social media like I usually do and seeing all the great things that are happening over there. And so, I know that that's going to be great. I will reminisce on the times that I was there as well. But yeah, super happy
Uh,
to be here, and yeah, I'm excited.
Very cool. And they can find you, the folks can find you, Denise, at Denise T. Kwan, you said on LinkedIn, right?
Denise
That's
C. Kwan on LinkedIn. Just search Denise Kwan, and I mean, it's yeah.
You'll be there. All right. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Denise. See you folks on the next.